other star systems or another planet, or just they do a little quick skip, hop, and a jump, and they're here from another dimension. So the distances in interstellar space may not be as daunting as many of our physicists begin to think.
Right. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. You're on the Lou Gentile Show. Who am I speaking with?
Joel?
Yes, Joel. What's your question?
I just had a couple of statements. I have a late brother that passed away a few years ago, and he was a career Marine, and he did two tours in Vietnam. And he is not the kind of person that would ever lie to me about anything. He told me about several situations where he was in firefights, and they observed objects monitoring the action that was occurring. And being myself, I'm a Desert Storm veteran. I've talked to some retired naval personnel that were in the Mediterranean and sighted undersea objects that at first they thought were new Soviet submarines, but I guess they figured out that there's no way that they can move underwater at almost 100 miles an hour. And I'm very interested in the fact that this stuff has been suppressed for so long, but we still are subjected from time to time, various cities, major sightings that everyone sees, and it's still greatly subdued. And I just really appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Good night. You there?
I'm here.
Did you hear that? Oh, I was just making sure.
You ain't going to get rid of me that soon. No. No, I was intrigued by your caller's comment about the undersea objects. That's another whole area of interest that has never been addressed. I had an opportunity some years back. As I said, my kid's a career naval officer. He's a full captain now. He's assigned in London. But I visited him one time up at Whidbey Island up in Seattle in the Puget Sound area some years back. He was assigned at a naval air station there at Whidbey. And I got a chance to talk to a couple of his co-workers, guys that were involved in anti-submarine warfare. And we'd had a few beers, we had a chili cookout and a few beers, and we got to talking about it. And I passed the word out, and I said, I'm nosy as hell. I've heard stories that some of you guys have encountered things under the sea that you simply cannot explain. And he says, you have no idea what we run into. He says, I can't discuss this on the record, but he said, we've monitored things over the years while we were monitoring the Soviet submarines. We picked up stuff that we just simply couldn't make sense out of. They had monitored objects under the water, Lou, that were the size of aircraft carriers that were literally going over 100 miles an hour. And that, those were not Soviets. The Soviets had we and the Soviets never even came close to anything like that. And he said they marked it off, they made the report, they put it in the book, and the reports went off, God knows where, somewhere back in Washington, and they never heard from them again. But that's gone on for years. The Brits had a case here just a few short years ago where there was a hell of a lot of undersea activity off the northern coast of Scotland, where massive undersea objects were moving all over the place. And the Brits sent an entire flotilla out there to try to figure out what was going on. But what happened out there never was released. No one has ever been told about it. Now, how do you explain things like that to people? You really can't.
No, you can't.
You tell them that there are objects under the surface that bigger than aircraft carriers that are going over 100 miles an hour. You tell them that there are artificial metallic objects in orbit around the planet that we didn't build, that are gigantic in size. How you tell them that, what we ran into on the moon, for God's sake. That's another big thing. No one is ever going to be told, at least in the next 50 years, in my opinion, that what we encountered on the moon. A word or two, but they're still still worried about it.
Well, what do you think about the speculation that some people present saying that we never went to the moon?
Well, I know a couple of astronauts, you know, and I trust them. I talked to Ed Mitchell many times, and Ed says he went to the moon. I never doubted him. But it's what they encountered when they were on the moon, Lou, that is the cover of it.
And what was that?
Well, they ran into technology that was waiting for them up there. This is another little interesting story that's a piece of history, and the evidence is pretty clear. There was a man by the name of Maurice Chatelain. Maurice died a couple of years back, I think. But he was a French scientist, and Maurice had been responsible for creating the entire communications system for the Apollo program. Now, that's how brilliant he was. One of the top people in NASA for many, many years. Maurice was standing there listening when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And he was listening to the uninterrupted direct lead from the moon, which the average average American never had a chance to hear, because before any of it was ever released, there was about at least a 30 or 45 second delay. But Chatelain was standing there listening to what Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin was saying when they got there. And they made several observations of what they encountered when they got there. Aldrin got very excited about it and said that, my God, they're here waiting for us. Look at the size of those babies. There's a couple of big UFOs sitting perched upon the edge of one of the craters there, looking down at them. And they remarked about this. But that never got released. Chatelain put it in a book before he died, but that kind of information was never released. That's why we really didn't ever go back to the moon. After was it Apollo 16 or 17? I forget which one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Ed Mitchell was 14. Anyhow, after we finished up with 16 or 17, we simply closed the program down. No more Apollo trips, went to the moon, closed it down, just went out of business. And the story is that we were told to get off and stay off. And that's exactly what we've done.
Well, do you think that what was on the moon for us was there so that when we finally got the technology, it was kind of like a stepping stone? Well,
I wonder about, you know, we've been lied to so many times over the years by so damn many people. The story was told back years and years ago, and I'm one of those guys, I'm old enough to remember, and I don't forget very much. There was a big story. We were going to go to the moon, and we were going to establish a base on the moon, and we were going to use it as a scientific outpost, and we were going to do this and that and all kinds of different things. Well, that you know, they closed that whole damn thing down. And the story is apparently that there's someone else on the moon, and that we weren't at that point allowed to come back until we get our act together, perhaps. You know, we're violating a lot of damn laws. You know, are you familiar, Lou, with the fact that there is an international agreement not to militarize space? You aware of that?
No.
Well, this was signed in the UN a number of years ago. We and the Soviets and everybody else that, you know, have science, we decided that we were not going to militarize space. That was not a good idea, and everybody signed and everybody agreed. And then the United States proceeded to militarize space.
Why is that?
Well, I guess it's, you know, the fact that we don't trust anybody else, and we figure if anybody's going to militarize space, it's going to be us. So we've